Russian intelligence officers who were part of the Russian military launched a concerted attack on our political system. The indictment alleges that they used sophisticated cyber techniques to hack into computers and networks used by the Clinton campaign. And I will close by reiterating the central allegation of our indictments, that there were multiple, systematic efforts to interfere in our election. And that allegation deserves the attention of every American.
In addition to making it explicitly clear his report did not in any way clear Donald Trump, Robert Mueller opened and closed his remarks today by discussing Russia's ongoing efforts to interfere in our elections and undermine our electoral process. Last month, FBI Director Chris Wray warned that Russian meddling is only ramping up. Today, Clint Watts wrote the Kremlin already has its strategy to help Trump win in 2020, secure his base, and split the opposition. Democrats in Congress, along with some Republicans, have sought to pass a bill to combat foreign interference in our elections, but their efforts are being blocked by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is refusing to bring any election security bills up for a vote. In doing so, the top Republican in Congress seems to be effectively inviting Russia or any other foreign government to undermine our elections once again. Joining me now, Democratic Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas, member of Judiciary and Homeland Security Committees, who has introduced a bill to combat foreign election interference. Congresswoman, do you feel like Mueller's statement today gives any new urgency or push to the kind of legislation you're proposing?
Chris, absolutely. First of all, let me say that the work that Democrats have been doing by a multiple number of committees was validated today with the loudest of resounding sound, and that was the sound of Mr. Mueller's voice. And the tape that you just ran and said that the American people should take notice. Any process that holds the president accountable and legislation has to have a political element to it, and that is the voice of the American people. My legislation, H.R. 2353, is something that can be passed immediately and hopefully not quashed or into the Senate graveyard that most bills have gone, that this would actually go forward. This bill is simple. It just says that if you have been contacted by a foreign adversary or your campaign or anyone, as was evidenced by Mr. Mueller's report in Volume 1, it was overwhelming. It was like a gusher. It was like a tsunami of contacts with the Trump administration or Trump campaign. Then you have 72 hours to report it to the FBI. How simple can that be? It's a foreign adversary. I have to report it, period. Papadopoulos, the individuals who met in the Trump Tower, Mr. Trump himself, Manafort, everyone would have a right or responsibility to report that contact or any other election going forward.
With that, just to be clear, part of the sort of ingeniousness here of the effort was the use of cutouts, right? Ostensibly independent third parties. We haven't established beyond a reasonable doubt that they're connected back to the Kremlin. All of that's clearly suggested. I guess the question would be for you, like how would that be established in the legislation about what folks would have to or not have to report?
That's why it's very simple. They report the contact. You are in contact with a foreign adversary, you report it. The FBI can then be left to ultimately determine whether it was innocent, whether you passed by them on a subway train, or whether or not you had actual discussions that would impact your opponent's election, such as was very conspicuous with all the intentions of the Russians and contacts with the Trump campaign was to hurt former Secretary Hillary Clinton. That's very clear, and it's very clear in Volume 1 as well. Remember now, Mueller also said in his statement today, again, a voice that was loud that the world could hear, is that he did not speak to collusion. He said he couldn't determine or could not do anything with criminal conspiracy, the idea of conspiracy. That's a criminal concept, and I understand what he's saying. He didn't even use the word collusion.
Well, let me ask you, what do you think the ramifications are? I mean, there is some bipartisan work on election protection bill in the Senate. I know there's bipartisan co-sponsors, Roy Blunt, if I'm not mistaken, in Missouri, and Amy Klobuchar and Dick Durbin have worked on some stuff. McConnell's just not going to move on it. What are the implications of Congress failing to act here on your legislation and others. There's a whole bunch of stuff having to do with, the integrity of county electoral systems, et cetera.
Well, Chris, first of all, I want to thank you for bringing this up. It is a act of irresponsibility. It is a dereliction of duty. And frankly, if there was a way to charge the Congress, the Senate, under the leadership of Mr. McConnell, not the entire Senate, of course, because we know the bills are bipartisan and people are eager to pass these bills, it should really be questioned as to the leadership that he's given. I am baffled why a statesperson, a leader of the Senate, irrespective of whether they are Republican or Democrat, would not want to protect any election, and particularly a federal election, in the aftermath of conspicuous documentation that not only did the Russians interfere and impact the 2016 election, many of us believe it's well documented that it was stolen from the Democrats, but also attempted to impact and did impact, although elections obviously resulted in a Democratic House, but they also interfered with the 2018 election. Do we think it will be any less in 2020, and that it's any less important? The importance of the preciousness of the vote, the sacredness of this process, the fact that the world admires the process of election processes that we have in this country, the newness of new voters that are coming forward, such a huge number of young voters, you would think that the leader of the Senate would unshackle himself from partisan defense of this administration and go forward with reasonable debate and placement of these bills on the floor. And I would hope that the President of the United States would sign these bills. These bills do not have on them his name or his administration. They're talking about protecting Republicans and Democrats and independents and anyone who goes to the poll in the coming years.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, thank you so much for being with me tonight. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.